Hi everyone and welcome to SWPL My Story, and today I'm delighted to introduce you to broadcaster Ali DeFoy. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
No, I'm great, thanks, and thanks so much for joining us and looking forward to hearing all about your story to where you got today. So just tell us, like, how did it get started? What was it inspired you to go into the media and your love for the game?
Um, so when I was younger, I was very sporty, like very, very sporty, as was my brother. My mum was sporty, my dad was sporty. Every weekend, I'd either be out running at the running club or I'd be trying to play a sport, basketball, netball, you name it. Um, and if I wasn't doing that, I wasn't doing something with the school or a local club, I'd be down in the local park with my brother and his pals trying to play football. I mean, I was never really able to play football. I was just chucked in goals and then they just kicked the ball at me. So that was like my little role, but it was my way of hanging out with my big brother. Um, and I really enjoyed it. But when I was younger, I just knew I wanted to present. Apparently, I used to just mimic things off the telly. My mum and dad would say, "How does she remember that? Like, how does she remember that punchline? She doesn't even understand the words, but she's still making it funny." Obviously, I don't remember what they're talking about. But they said we always knew that that's something you were quite good at, remembering lines and remembering what people said. So when I was younger, I knew I wanted to be a presenter, but that wasn't a job. So much so when I was in high school, I had our like careers day, and you had to sit and do an essay on what you wanted to be as a job, what your career was going to be. And I think it must have been about 12 or 13, and I was at Greif High, and I was like, right, I want to be a TV presenter. So I did all this research on Kat Deely, Lorraine Kelly, Ant and Dec, which are still like in the limelight now. But when I was younger, they were like presenting all the shows, and I did my report on them, and I was buzzing, and I was so proud of it. I spent all weekend on it, and I took it in on Monday morning, and I got a punishment exercise because I wasn't taking the assessment properly. And I was devastated. I went home and I was crying, and I spoke to my mum. And fortunately, my mum was a teacher and she knew how much work I'd put into it. So she wrote back and said she won't be doing a punishment exercise. So I saw her put that work in. She wants to do that as a job. They do it as it must be a job. Some people do it. So like, no. So it was never really a career path that my school at that time saw. And I was just like, I'm going to do this. And one of my friends went to a school called Knightswood Secondary and went to the dance school side of it. So it's a centre of excellence for dancing. But when you got into fifth and sixth year, they did musical theatre. She said, why don't you try that? And I looked up Lorraine Kelly and Kat Deely. Thought, how did they get into it? Lorraine was a journalist, as I'm sure you'll know. And some of the people who did it down south all went to stage school. And I thought, that's what I'll do, stage school. But I got to this point of, I love sport and I love wanting to present. How am I going to do both? But when I went to the dance school, I had to stop PE. I wasn't allowed to do it because if I broke something, if I damaged something, if I injured myself, I wouldn't be able to dance. So I had the choice of, do I play sport and continue? I was an MVP for basketball. I was a captain in the netball team. I was the golf captain in the golf club, my local golf club, Ranfurly Castle, girls captain. I loved all my sports. And I was like, what do I do? So at like 15, 16-year old, that for me was a really big decision. Do I give up my sport every weekend or do it and be a dancer and performer? Or do I do it the other way around and continue my sport, which I was good at, but I was good at everything individually, but I was not massively good at anything in particular, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I wasn't an amazing runner, but I was good. I ran for the Scottish schools, but I had an asthma attack and came second, so we don't really talk about that. But yeah, so I was good at, so I made the decision that I'm going to stop doing sport full time. And even though dance is a sport, but just focus on that. And I went to Knightswood and it was the best thing I ever could have done. It then got me into a scholarship down in London. I studied down there, came straight out of there and knew I wanted to be a presenter. Thought, what do presenters have? They have show reels, made one. And while it was getting edited, somebody asked me, the person who was editing it asked me if I would consider being a presenter on a shopping channel. And I was like, no, shopping TV? Like, no, I'm going to do shopping TV. And then I was thinking about, hold on a minute, it's a presenter job though. Why would I say no? But I think in my head there was a stigma with shopping telly, and I was like, why would I do that? I want to present sport because my grand plan was Sky Sports. I thought I'll learn how to be a presenter at drama school. and then I'll go back and then I'll pick up all my sport again. And then that's how I'll intertwine my love of sport and my presenting and put it back together. So jewellery shopping channel was not on the cards for me. That was like, that is not the direction I want to go. But at that point, 18, 19 years old, there wasn't really jobs for girls in sport in the media that I could see that well. So I thought, okay, I'll give it a go and see. So I ended up being there for 15 years, presenting live TV, 5 hours a day. And it was one of the best things I ever did. And when I went to Sky Sports, they said to me, that's probably one of the best ways of learning your craft as a TV presenter, because you don't have a script, you're ad lib, you're 5 hours, everything can go wrong, everything could go right, and you're just on air and you have to sink or swim. So I loved it, did really, really well. And then it was a shame. My granddad died and my gran died, separate sides of the family, and my brother had a wee baby, so I had a wee nephew all in the space of 3 months. And I thought, I need to come back to Scotland. I need to be here. So I didn't quite know what I was going to do. I thought, I know that it's not going to be shopping TV because there's nothing up here on that vein. And I thought maybe that's my way of getting back into sport. So I came up with no plan whatsoever, having had full-time job for 15 years presenting, coming back thinking, will I study? Will I do a journalism degree? And that's what the presenters are doing these days. There's female presenters in sport. That's what I'll do. And it's funny, there's a beautiful woman, very intelligent and very good presenter who now presents for BT Sports Score and many other stations, TNT. And we both met at a shopping channel audition. We went to different channels. And her name's Jules Breach, and she does incredibly well now. And we had a conversation, and I decided to go and do full-time shopping telly, and she decided to go down and do a broadcast journalism degree in sports. And we had a very similar career thought, but we went two separate ways about it. And she's done incredibly well, which is really exciting to see. So now I look to her and think it's amazing. The journalism degree is something that's important. So I went and did that at like Open Uni, at the National Council of Training Journalists, NCTJ, to do that, to learn, because I thought, well, that's what you need to do. So I did that, and then everything just fell into place. People who I knew from down south said, what are you going to do? And I said, I don't know. And they said, oh, we work in radio. Let's put you in touch with Heart Scotland Capital. Let's get you in there. I went in there for a wee bit. They were like, yeah, you're great. Let's go. We can't put you straight on here because you haven't been on the radio ever before in your life, but let's see what we can do. I ended up doing Wave FM in Stirling. And then I had my own football show on a Saturday. They were like, go for it, run with it. So I was doing all these football things on a Saturday afternoon. It was amazing, but the only downside of it went I couldn't go to any games, which I really struggled with. But I could talk about them all and watch all the scores coming in. But I couldn't actually physically go. Then I went to Dundee and presented at Wave FM and a breakfast show. Loved that. And then randomly was offered a job at Carnoustie Golf Links as a head of marketing communications, which for me was getting back into my love of golf. It was at a time where radio was sort of networking back down to London or networking to one hub, and a lot of presenters started moving on. And I thought, well, this is an opportunity for me to get back into sport and a different side of things. So I took the role. It was only meant to be for 6 months, just to help out, establish a role, and then hand over to some of the team there. But I ended up being there for 11 months. They offered me a full-time contract at the end of that. But at that point, I was then offered a chance to go back into radio, but be a host of a football show, a brand new one. And I thought, I'm not quite finished in my presenting days, I'm not quite finished in the sport, and this is an opportunity I don't really want to miss. So I took the chance coming back to Glasgow and doing football, and left the role up at Carnoustie. But I still go back because it's an amazing place. But yeah, and that then started my football, and it's just taken off, and I don't know how it's happened, but I am so grateful.
No, it's great to hear you, like the way that you've explained it. You made the comparisons when you're there and you're doing your stuff in the shopping channel, but it never left you, that you knew where you wanted to be. You seen it as an opportunity to hone your craft, and that's the exact same feedback that Sky Sports gave you. which has then led you into radio and different aspects of the media. So when you're then taking that step into football, I know
Mhm.
you've been at a couple of clubs. So you
Yeah.
just kind of summarise that for us, and what did that entail when you were involved with one club specifically, and how that differed from like your when you were doing your presenting?
So do you mean at St Mirren?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to let you say that, but
Oh, sorry. I was just checking. I was like, golf club or football club?
uh,
Yeah. So, um, St Mirren, my family are local to Paisley and have always sponsored the local football team, which has been St Mirren. It's always something that's been within our family. On my mum's side, her first cousin used to be the goalkeeper for Rangers, and her uncle, his dad, used to be the goalkeeper for St Mirren. So there's been a sort of interesting link between St Mirren and Rangers, and it's quite funny that I now find myself working with both. Um, so St Mirren came about during lockdown. I was working at the football radio station, and they asked me if I would be interested in presenting St Mirren TV, because a lot of channels or a lot of clubs had to start a channel to enable people to watch the games because they couldn't come to the ground. So that's where that sort of working with the club came from. They knew I had been to the games with my family and supported them. I'm not going to hide that. I know I work with Rangers now, but that's where I grew up. And I ended up presenting there. And through presenting there, they said, we feel that we would really like you in at the club. We feel that there's stuff that you could do with the marketing. There's stuff that you could do with ticket sales, and there's things that the communication side of it. We would really want you to, if you're interested, take a chance on that. And it was a moment where I was sort of coming to almost a crossroads in my career at the station that I was at, because when I was there, I was originally brought on to present it and produce it, but I never once presented it. I presented the music side of it, but never actually a football show. And I was given the opportunity to present Rangers TV. However, it didn't work for the radio station for me to do that. So I then thought, well, what do I want to do? And I want to get back into TV. That's what I've always kind of known. That's what I really enjoy. And I've sort of, in my eyes, missed an opportunity to work with another club due to the role I was in at that point. So I thought, right, it's maybe time to take St Mirren up on their offer of having a look at delving in a few days a week to see if I could help there. And then see where else my career could take me. I'd been contacted by the BBC as well and asked me to do Saturdays, well, not necessarily Saturdays, but sports scene results show, open all mics, and to see dabble in that, which scared the living daylights out of me because I've never done commentary in my life and I didn't know what I was getting myself in for. But I put it off for a year, and then after a year I thought, do you know what, I'm just going to give this a go. So then I went freelance, took up the role at St Mirren, and tried to work out what I could do to make a bit of a difference, hopefully in a positive way. Not that they weren't doing great things anyway, but just from the background that I had in sales and being in London and doing there's so much to talk about, but I worked with Aston Villa quite a lot and did wee bits with them and their club TV. So there's things I remember from that. When I worked at Carnoustie, we went down to Tottenham Hotspur. We had a whole day of training at Tottenham to find out about the excellence that they can offer and how to bring that back up to Carnoustie to the golf club. But I was thinking, what can I bring from that into St Mirren? And trying to see where areas that we could maybe grow, but not put too much investment in, but still grow. For example, and I hope they won't mind me saying this, but it's a fact, the women's team at St Mirren, I was shocked to find out, had never ever been given a St Mirren kit. They bought it from the shop like everybody else. So when I found that out, I thought, well, you need a kit. So first thing I did was got the women's team a kit from the club, got the B team a kit from the club, or the unders, however you want to look at it, that was the same as the first team. And it was the first time the women were ever in the team photograph for the kit, with the brand new kit and the kit launch. So I thought I have to do this. Kate Cooper, who you may or may not have heard of,
yeah, Nicky, yeah, great, yeah.
She's wonderful. We sat down and we had chats as to what could I do to help, where are we at? And Kate does so much. And for me,